how much you get done, and also how you focus more than anything for the week. And so, just a reminder, if you do have one of my planners, you want to grab that right now. It could be either of the styles, it doesn't matter. If you don't have the planners, don't worry about it. You can, I dropped the link, and just in case it only shows when you show up, I'm going to drop the link again. That's to the weekly planning pages for busy professionals. So you can use that link. You can go, and after this live, you can go ahead and you can go watch videos on any of the 4 steps and download the pages that I'm going to be talking about, along with some examples and some ideas and some strategies of how to use them. So that's a great resource. And you can just use the planner you have or a piece of paper and just follow along. So the momentum process is a way of really combining everything, weekly, daily, quarterly, 90-day, and annual planning, so that it creates this ecosystem. And instead of getting excited and setting annual goals and then maybe going and getting really excited about planning your day, you've got this through line with the momentum system that connects each piece to the next. Because I think a lot of times what can happen is that we get excited about, oh, a new daily routine or a big annual goal, but then that fizzles and we forget it, and we never create the momentum that we need. And the momentum comes from bringing all of these pieces together. So I love having a momentum system, and weekly momentum, honestly, is like the heart of the system, because I want you to think about it this way. I have a feeling that you like to set ambitious goals. Okay. So if you like to set ambitious goals, big, bold, ambitious goals don't move forward by ambition alone. They move forward when your week is built to carry them and that you're keeping them in mind. So I want to help you build a week that can carry your big, bold goals. Now, if we start to look at the system, the annual momentum is something that really the core essence of it, so you have an idea of the whole system, is simply to have one annual goal, like one main goal, so that then all the other pieces of the system are helping you and facilitating you in moving towards that. So that's step one. There's a little bit more to it, but that's all you need to know for right now. The 90 days of momentum, that is something that I have videos on the channel about, and I'm going to be adding some new videos too. I've actually just readjusted the 90-day planning process, but it's still very similar in that you're every 90 days, you're going to have one main goal that hopefully is moving you towards your annual goal. So once again, one thing, big fan of that book. So the 90-day has one goal. The only difference with the 90-day is that when I do the 90-day goal with my clients, that I use that as an opportunity to check in and do an assessment and a health assessment of their business, so that we can then check and see where attention needs to be put for the next 90 days. And then we can set up the plan to support that. So definitely when we're doing any of these phases, whether it's annual or 90-day or weekly or daily, there's a thing called a rewind, which we're going to do in a few minutes, that really is going to make sure that you're creating the best plan you possibly can, no matter what phase this is about. And then the final piece is this weekly momentum that we're talking about right now. And that is where you are able to connect the dots between the bigger goals, the 90-day and the annual, and your week. And then if you want bonus points, you can do daily momentum. And if you want to learn about daily momentum, and you want to grab a copy of my best-selling book, Daily Momentum, I go into complete detail about it there. And there's also a planner that goes with that. And on my website, Get It Done Diva, you can actually get a little package with those too. And I think there's even a package with a session with me as well. So I just wanted to give you an overview of the entire system. So there you go. Now, what we're focusing on right now is weekly momentum. And there's 4 steps to the process. We're going to start with step 1. But let me just tell you the steps. There's rewind, there's realign, there's plan, and there's plug in. So if we start with rewind, what we're doing here is we are rewinding the last week so that we can mine it for gold. When we rewind anything, if we do it from a really healthy place in the emotional scale, and for those of you with my bookmarks or are familiar with the emotional thermometer or the emotional scale, if you follow Abraham Hicks, I find that if you take your temperature before you start doing any of this planning or productivity pieces, that you can acknowledge where you are and make sure that you're in a good state of mind to plan. Because if you're in a place of fear or if you're in a place of frustration or anger, there's nothing wrong with that. You can acknowledge that. But then in acknowledging it, it might just grease the wheels, move you up the scale a little bit. Because let's be honest, you're going to create a better plan, whether it's for the day, the week, the quarter, or the year. If you're in a place of possibility, satisfaction, maybe even feeling a little bit like you are feeling, let's see, optimistic. You're going to create a better plan when you're in that state of mind, because when we're in a state of fear, it's almost like we've got blinders on and we can't see so well. So one of the first things or the first habits that you want to get into is making sure that you are going ahead and making sure that you're in a pretty good state when you do your planning. And this is built into the daily momentum so that you're taking your temperature before and afterwards. And I do it every single day, and I notice when I take my temperature and then do some of the activities that boost me up a little bit, my I go up the emotional scale. It's amazing how easily we can figure out how to shift things. Just like if you're cold, you put a sweater on. It doesn't need to be any different than that. So now with the weekly rewind, which is step one in the weekly planning process, one of the first things that we want to do is we want to step back through the week. Because let's be honest, ladies, it is so easy to forget which way's up, to forget what happened yesterday, never mind at the beginning of last week. So that's where your planner is really going to come in handy, or looking on the calendar at your Google Calendar or whatever calendar you use, but looking back over the last 7 days and just jogging your memory about what happened. Now, if you're using my planners, there are daily pages. So you can then flip through the last 7 days daily pages. That's going to help you get a better sense of what went down as well. Because otherwise, all we're going to remember is the last thing that happened or the most negative thing that happened. And so if we do just take a minute, that's all you really need to take to look back over the last 7 days. It's going to allow you to mine it for gold more and to make a better plan for the next week. So when you're looking back, I'm now going to give you some ideas of things to look for, which are part of the rewind. So, as you're looking back, the first thing that you want to be looking for are wins. A win is something that you received. It could be an opportunity. It might be something that you didn't do, like a not to do can be a win. You chose not to go to that event, not to make that phone call when you were in a bad mood, or not to spend that money on the particular software that was so sexy, but you decided you would hold back, right? Those are all wins, along with perhaps new clients that you received or a check that came in the mail. Wins can be for your business or your career, but they can come in any shape or size. So they might be personal, they might be spiritual. You might have had a really great meditation. It might be that you were able to really connect with a new person that you think might become a really great friend. There's a lot of different places and corners in your life, and we want to look in all of them when we're looking for wins. So you're writing down down wins, and I'll tell you the biggest mistake that people make with this is they're thinking too big. They're like, oh, last week sucked. I don't have any wins. Or I have this win and this win. I landed this really big client and I got invited to speak at this huge event, right? And then they stop there. And while those are really good wins, we want to practice the art of celebrating the micro wins, the tiny wins, because this really builds up our momentum and is going to fuel us to want to look a little bit deeper into last week. And also, it's going to excite us and inspire us to move into the next week. So, find wins, and especially want you to look for micro wins, the little tiny ones. And I challenge you for the week, come on, at least 5 or 6, right? I would have that you challenge yourself at 10, but I want you to underpromise and overdeliver. It's something I talk about all the time. So maybe 5 is that magic number, but come on. You have at least 5 wins, probably more. And the place to write these in the planner, if you have it, is there's a page that is called the weekly evolution. And the first question is satisfaction. What felt satisfying? That's a good place to write your wins. You can also write it on the page opposite, where there's lots of room. There's a whole blank page there where you can pop your wins down. In the weekly evolution, you will find a series of 7 questions. I'm not going to go over all of those right now. You will find those in the weekly planning pages that you can download or in the planners. But I'm hitting the main notes of the weekly momentum process today so that you don't get overwhelmed by too many details. So the first thing is really those wins. The next thing to look at is, what progress did you make last week? So the question number 2 in the weekly evolution is, how did last week go? Did it match your expectations? And this is a great spot to write down what progress you made in the last 7 days. Now, progress is an interesting thing. It's something I was talking about this last week when I was leading a workshop for entrepreneurs. And I was talking about the fact that we feel like ambition is this rocket fuel. But actually, if we don't see that we're making progress, our ambition quickly deflates. Progress is what keeps us inspired and excited. The real definition of momentum is to feel like you're moving forward towards what you want. And so if you can identify a little bit of progress, you don't have to cross the finish line, but if you can identify just a tiny little bit of progress that you've made, it's going to put you in the state of mind where you feel like you're doing great and you're moving forward and you want to do more to move forward even faster. So we want to look for progress every single week. Now, we could just say, hey, what good stuff have you done? But I'm going to narrow that focus down a little bit more. And I'm going to ask you, in terms of your bigger goal. So if you set an annual goal, those of you who work with me and set 90-day goals and have a 90-day plan, I want you to look at those and really look at what progress you made in the last week towards those bigger goals. So just start to notice that you started a new step towards one of the goals that, for example, if you were going to have the goal for your next 90 days was really to upgrade your engagement on YouTube. And let's say that one of the steps to do that was to post a video every single week. Progress might include that you did an outline for the video. I want you to break things down, not just did the video, right? Because there's a lot of rungs on the ladder that lead us to the point of actually hitting milestones. And I want, when you're recognizing the progress that you've made, I want you to acknowledge those. So take the time to look at what progress you made over the last 7 days, specifically progress towards your bigger goals. Because I think the other thing too is that sometimes what happens is we start to think of progress and we feel like we're just frantically looking for anything that we made progress with because we're so stuck in the day-to-day grind of just running our businesses and serving our clients that often we're maybe not making progress on some of those bigger goals, and that doesn't feel good. But I'm going to be honest with you, it's better for you to realize that you're setting them aside and you're not making progress on them rather than sticking your head in the sand. So even if the progress is small, or maybe you flat out have to say, I didn't do anything at all towards it, that is going to shift how you plan your next week and maybe allow you to dig in a little bit more and decide it's more of a priority for you to take some steps to move towards making progress this week. The final part of the weekly rewind, which I'm going to talk about right now before we move to step two, is that I want you to look at do-overs from the last week. So I was just mentioning that maybe you didn't make any progress on your bigger goals. That sounds like if that's the case, there's room for you to kind of search around a little bit for a do-over there. What could you have done differently? So you could have done just a little thing to make progress towards that goal. It may be that do-overs are in how you showed up for the things you did do over the last week. Maybe you would have showed up earlier for that appointment so you weren't so rushed and you could be more present. Maybe you would have emailed out everybody to follow up after the event, right? What are some of the do-overs? And you might start out by seeing and noticing what didn't work and then beginning to look for the do-over there. The example I always use is when I ran out of gas with my daughter on the way to the Grand Canyon. The do-over was not put gas in the car. You want to go into specific details. I figured out that it was the day before I figured out which gas station and at what time I would have put the gas in the car. So I want you to be that specific with your do-overs. It's the only way they actually become an asset for you rather than an exercise that you're going through. They rewire your neural pathways so that you have different choice points in the future when you take the time to come up with do-overs. So I'm challenging you. I want 3 do-overs from last week. Every single week I come up with 3. In fact, I'm going to be honest with you. When I do my daily momentum, which is a great way for you to obviously increase your momentum beyond just weekly. When I do my daily momentum, I come up with at least 2, usually 3 do-overs every single day. And then when I do my weekly momentum, I look back over those and I pick the best of the bunch. And in doing that, I'm reminding myself again of the do-overs. So it's like a double 2 for 1, I guess. I don't know. I get double the benefit from it by doing it both in the weekly and in the daily. So those are the tools, the main tools for the weekly rewind. We're going to step now into the second part of the process, which is to realign. And for those of you following with the planner, actually a big piece of this is right underneath those weekly evolution questions. This is a bit that a lot of people skip, myself included for quite a few months. And it's the time when you realign, you remind yourself what those bigger goals are. Because I can't tell you how many times I'll start a session with a client, and the very first question that I ask them is, what is your big 90-day goal and your annual goal? And this isn't a trick question. I ask it every single session at the beginning. And here's the thing. Those goals don't change that often. You might need to renegotiate or shift them a little bit, but pretty much those big goals are going to stay the same. And yet, at the beginning of almost every session, there's a rustling of papers. There's like they feel like it's a pop quiz and they're guessing what the answer is. And I remind them to turn to the front page of their planner where they have written it down. Because let's be honest, ladies, we forget those big goals that we went on a retreat to set, and we spent a few $1,000s. We stayed in a lovely hotel. We had a fantastic time. Or we sat at home and we poured over the last year and we really thoughtfully put those goals together. Or we went to one of my planning days and you did your 90-day plan, and we invest all of this energy and money into creating these goals. But if we don't look at them, they don't do us any good at all. No good at all. And so in step two of the weekly step two of weekly momentum, I want you to look at your 90-day and your annual goal. Remind yourself what they are. If you've set a 90-day goal on a plan, like I do with my clients, then take a moment to look through all of the different projects and steps and all of the information on that plan. Align yourself. That's why the step's called realign. You're realigning yourself with that so that you can make sure that as you step into the next week, that you are in alignment with where you want to go. Because here's what happens otherwise. We don't look at our annual or our 90-day goals, and each week or each day, we're like, I'm excited. I'm on it. I'm going to make a list. I'm going to get stuff done. And we are productive. We knock out that list. But at the end of the day, we're like, what did I really do? What progress did I really make? Something doesn't feel right. I don't feel like I really moved forward. And it's because what we're doing is we're just doing the daily grind. We're knocking out very efficiently whatever we think of first, not the most important things. So this planning process, the reason we have step two, which it doesn't have to take very long to do, it could be as simple as just looking at your annual goal, looking at your 90-day goal, and reminding yourself what they are. And if necessary, renegotiate them, change them. Once a week, you have the opportunity to do that if it doesn't feel like a good fit anymore. Now, the other step that's in the planner here, and if you've downloaded the weekly planning pages for busy professionals, you'll see that you have this page there. At the bottom there, you're going to find a little check-in too with the 90-day plan. So there's room for you to rewrite the 90-day goal and the 90-day projects. There's 10 of them on your plan. And then next to each one to write down the next action step. Next action steps are tiny. It's like the smallest, tiniest little thing that you could do. As if you were delegating this project to someone else, what would be the first thing you would tell them to do? The, the You'll end up with 10 little next action steps. You don't have to take them this week, but writing them down here along with your 90-day goal and your 90-day projects, what it's doing too is it's priming the pump. It's creating possibilities of what you might focus on this week. And if you were at the 90-day planning day that I did, this is going to be the first week that you can start to plug in your weekly goal. We'll do that in a minute. I'm really excited about it because it's a new way of using the plan that I'm really excited about. So step one is the rewind. Step two is the realign. It's all on the one page. One's at the top of the page, one's at the bottom of the page. Done. Moving on to step three. Step three is where you're going to plan. Now we're going to use the Own Your Week page. Looks like this in the Black Planner. Might look slightly different in the 12-week planner, but same idea. You've got a blank space at the top, basically, for you to mind map and brainstorm. And underneath that, you have room to create what I love to call your weekly scorecard. It's your weekly top 10 actions that you're going to focus on. Is this everything you're going to do? No, you're running a business. You are helping run a family. You're supporting great social life. You're having fun. There's a lot more to your life than just the weekly top 10. But this is a way for you to track how much progress you're making and to create some momentum. And so what I want you to do in the white space at the top is just start to brainstorm. What would you like to accomplish this week? One way to think of this, if you know what a mind map is, you put an idea in the middle and then little ideas off of it, just kind of to use the same visual that your brain uses so that it can connect better to the ideas you're putting on the page. So one way to think of this is in the middle of the mind map to write down, where do I want to be by the end of this week? I think it's a great way for you to snap yourself into the right state of mind to create a really good weekly top 10. Now, everything that we did already, the reason we did step one and step two is because it was once again priming the pump. It was getting you ready to create a really top notch weekly top 10, a list that is going to move you forward, keeping in mind where you want to go, aligned with what's important to you and what matters. So when you do this mind map and you brainstorm right now, where do I want to be by the end of the week? Yes, you might think, need to send birthday card to my mom, need to, make sure that I pay that bill or that I do my taxes. Like there may be things that are urgent that you just thought of right now, but you're also going to be writing down a lot of things that are around making progress towards those things that are more important to you. And so it's going to be a better list. This is all designed to help you create a better list. So you mind map at the top of the page. And then from there, like it's like a holding pattern, then you come up with your weekly top 10. Now, there is a weekly goal at the top. So there is one thing for the week, a main objective for the week, and then you have your 10 projects or 10 actions for the week, right? Your goal for the week, let's talk about this for a minute. If you came to my 90-day planning and you're using the new 90-day planning that I probably will make some videos about too, then you're going to literally just pluck one of the 10 projects off your 10 projects on your 90-day plan. You're just going to pick one of those. That's your weekly goal. Okay. That's how easy it is once you've done your 90-day plan. You don't have to think, you've already figured it out, and you're going to take yourself where you need to go because you've already figured out what the ingredients are. They might adjust, you might renegotiate, but that is a great way for you to set your weekly goal. If you do not have a 90-day plan or the new version that I'm talking about, then you may have a clear idea of ultimately where you want to be by the end of the week. That could be the goal. Or most likely what will happen is you'll come up with your weekly top 10 list, and then you'll look at it and there's like a theme. There's several items that are moving a bigger project forward that are helping you make progress, and you'll identify what the goal is that way. Okay, so there's only one goal for the week. There is 10 actions, and what's nice about this is there's room on here for you to write down the actions, for you to write down the tiny next action step for each one, and there's a place to score. Now, the scoring system allows you to clearly state how the week went, because sometimes we get a really warped perspective. Oh, I didn't do anything last week. But then you look at your weekly scorecard and you score yourself and you realize, well, actually, I did a little bit more than I thought, right? You'll also learn a lot about how you can plan better, because if you don't score well for the week, there's only one reason: you didn't design a winnable game for yourself. Every week, you're designing the game. You design the scorecard. So if you don't score high, it's because you set yourself up for failure. You didn't look at the list. You didn't really commit to it when you wrote it down. You wrote down two big steps, right? There's a lot of things you can look at. And often when I'm coaching clients, we can really zero in on this and learn a lot about how to adjust and plan better. So this weekly scorecard isn't just like, oh, if you're competitive, you want to do this. This is a way for you to really identify how well you're planning and figure out how to plan better. Because the better you plan with the more level of commitment and you're following through on what you're saying, the more progress you make. When we make progress, we're going to hit those big, ambitious goals. So the scoring system, which, as you're writing down the plan, obviously you don't worry about scoring. You score when you do the rewind, which we already did. But the scoring system works like this. If you took a step towards doing that action, I mean, I don't care if you just opened the computer with the intention to do it, and pulled up the first page of the document and wrote one word, you get a half point. If you complete the item, you get 1 point. If you did nothing, not even the intention, not even opening the computer, it's a 0. And if you just like went above and beyond, you did it so well and the results was so amazing for that action item, one of your top 10, you get to score yourself a 2 if you knock it out of the ballpark. So just so you know for next week when you're doing this so that you can do your scoring, right? All right, so that is the plan. So we've done rewind, realign, plan. We have one last step to cover now, and that is plug in. And it's a step that a lot of people skip. Oh, they've got this great plan and I'm off and running, but they haven't done that final step to plug it in so that they can truly be successful. So there's a couple of tools that I'm going to share with you. There's a lot of different, this weekly momentum process, what I love about it is I can talk about it every single week and neither of us would get bored because it can highlight different ways to use it or how you can touch on different tools a little bit differently and play with them different ways. I had to do that. Otherwise, I would get bored. You would get bored. Okay. So, plugging in. What I want to talk about this week around plugging in is first of all, your weekly top 10 that you just created. There's a thing called Pomodoros you might be familiar with. If you're not, then I have a bunch of videos on my YouTube channel. There's a whole, I think there's a series on a playlist on Pomodoros. You can look at that. It'll give you some ideas of what to do with Pomodoros. But a Pomodoro in a nutshell is a 25-minute block of time that you focus on one thing. Seeing a theme here? And then you take a 3 to 5 minute break, set the timer, do another Pomodoro. So one of the things I love about Pomodoros is it allows us to get rid of our time dysmorphia. We have a habit of overpromising and under-delivering. It's a fact. I do it myself. I work with my clients, and we're constantly adjusting this dysmorphia we have with time. And so, one of the ways for us to start to shift that is to guesstimate how long things are going to take actually on the list right here. And I love using Pomodoros as the measurement of time because it seems to work really well with my clients. And then they can begin to adjust things. So for every item that you've written down the action on here, I want you to write down how many Pomodoros is that going to take, do you think? Is it going to take 1 or 2 or 10? Now, if something's going to take like 10 Pomodoros, it's too big to be one line item. That's just a clue as well. So you want things that are going to take maybe 1 or 2 pomodoros, not more than that. 2 would be pushing it. Ideally, each one of the items here is going to take about 25 minutes. That way, you know you're setting up a list where you're under promising and you can over deliver. You can always do more. Right? So everybody's like, but wait, I want this other stuff. You're either going to get it done or you're not. I want to set you up for a winnable game because when you start to see yourself making progress, it gets you in momentum. You achieve more, you get more done. So we under promise, so we get the engine started. So you want to write down how many pomodoros each one of these takes. And then to plug in, you want to look at your calendar and you want to figure out when are those pomodoros going to happen. Now if you want to, you can put specifically the right pomodoro for the right action, but ultimately we want to make sure that the amount of time that you need for the stuff on the list, that we have that amount of time set aside on the calendar. So you don't have to say this pomodoro is for that, this is for that. You can, but you don't have to get that detailed. That can maybe turn a lot of people off, including myself. But I do want to make sure that I have enough space with the already things that are on my calendar to fit in these pomodoros as well. So go through your calendar, plug in your pomodoros is a fantastic way for you to plug into your week and set yourself up for success. Now, there's a lot of other ways that we can plug in. There's different ways we can use the rewind. We can realign slightly differently, and we can plan in a few different ways. But what I've done in this live this week is introduced you to the whole cycle of weekly momentum, all 4 steps, so that you can get up and running and off to the races with your week. So by now you should have your weekly top 10. and you have now a scorecard to use as you move through the week. Now, there's a couple of resources I'm going to pop in the chat. I already put in there the weekly planning pages for busy professionals. Those are the pages I was just showing you if you don't have the planner. And you'll also find videos and strategies and ideas in there to help you with the weekly momentum process. I'm also putting in the chat the link to my shop. If you are like, oh my gosh, I have to have one of those planners, which I have women that are clients of mine that are like, when am I getting my next planner? Right. So they're pretty addictive, and it's a nice hybrid between a journal and a planner. So it's challenging you to ask questions. Questions, as you can see behind me, are a really great way to get in momentum and to move your way up the emotional scale. And so throughout the planner, there are questions that help you create momentum as well. So I dropped the link to the shop in there. If you're listening or following along and watching this, and it's been helpful for you, please go ahead and pop something in the comments. Let me know what your takeaway was. Absolutely let me know any questions. Do you want me to do this again? I may start to do this maybe once a month or something if enough people are interested in learning more, and more importantly, just having the accountability. That's why I do it 8 o'clock Monday morning, so that you have the accountability to get it done, because you are a get it done diva. You know what that stands for? Determined, innovative, visionary, action taper. The action taker, not an action taper, right? Let's do that again. You are determined, you are innovative, you are visionary, and you are an action taker. And so, with that, I will leave you in action. Grab your list, go create some momentum, and I will see you next time. Thanks for joining.